Okay, so this is my second time recording. I kind of deleted the first little half. But so I'm going to be doing option 2 for my application 3 this week. That was then, this is now. And I'm going to be referring back to this page on ELC just to make sure that I'm answering the questions. So in my Flipgrid, I believe I talked about a math unit that we have completed at my school. Our units are divided up into 6 different units, and usually they're each 6 weeks. And so I want to talk about, I'm primarily going to focus on one. But so unit 1 that we do in 2nd grade in DeKalb County is understanding base 10 understanding the base 10 system in general. And so unit 2 is becoming fluent with addition and subtraction. Unit 3 is measurement, and then we go to unit 4, which I'm going to be talking about, which is applying base 10 understanding. So a lot of my colleagues and I kind of were a bit confused about unit 4 and unit 2. We kind of thought they were the same. Some of my colleagues thought that we should have been teaching regrouping during unit 2, and some said no, you teach it during unit 4. So it was just a lot of misunderstanding. With unit 2, it also says that you're supposed to work with time and money, and that's the supporting standard. However, like when you go to the unit planner down at the bottom, because they planned the weeks out for you, time and money is not really in unit 2. And unit 2 also says that you're supposed to be, you can add and subtract within 20. So that's where we were kind of like, well, no, that's not regrouping, because adding and subtracting within 20, most of the times you don't have to regroup, but sometimes you do. So we were just kind of a bit confused about that. So yeah. Alright, so the first question, what standards guide these units and our learning outcomes? Okay, so I'm going to be talking about Unit 4, Applying Base 10 Understanding. These are the priority standards in this unit. So add and subtract within 1,000 using concrete models or drawings and strategies based on place value properties of operation and the relationship between addition and subtraction. Mentally add 10 to 100 to a giving number, 100 through 900, and mentally subtract 10 or 100 from a giving number, 100 through 900. Explain why addition and subtraction strategies work using place value in the operation and the properties of operations, and then represent and interpret data standard, and that is in all units. And so it gives like a chart for what students need to be able to do. And this chart is kind of, I personally think, is a little bit hard to understand, especially because they just like put the standards right here with what students need to be able to do, but I don't know. I feel like it's a bit confusing. And then we have the supporting standards. So use place value, understanding, and properties of operation to add and subtract up to 4 2-digit numbers, and then work with time and money. So I feel as though the standards that are driving the unit are pretty clear. Like you're focusing on adding and subtracting and focusing on using those strategies to understand time and money better. However, the way maybe that the standards were worded was a little different because, as I said before, a lot of people were confused. Then you have your ELA overarching standards, and your standards for mathematical practices. So the essential questions, which I typically feel like the essential questions are what students really should be able to do. So those are what happens to the value of a number when we add 10 to it or subtract 10 from it. What digits change? What digits stay the same? I understand why this essential question is with this unit, but I also feel as though the students should have gotten that in the first unit when you're diving into base 10 understanding and what it is. So I get why it's here, because you're going into regrouping, which is a little different for students. However, I feel like they really should have gotten this essential question or understood this in the first unit. Why is it important to be able to count amounts of money? I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. And why should we understand place value? So I feel like that last essential question is good for the unit, because it's, asking why you should understand, place value. So yeah. And then, so there's unit assessments that they make. There's a teacher version, a student version, obviously, and then there's pre and post. I wish I could show the assessments, but they've taken them down. The assessments, in my opinion, and a lot of my colleagues, did not reflect what we learned in the unit at all. And then another thing with assessments, there were like tons of typos. These like problems were going up to having students add in the thousands place, which is not a second grade standards. It was just, the pre and post assessments they did not reflect the standards at all. And like I said, I wish I could show them, but they've taken them down. It's like I can't click the link to get to them. I'm sorry. So with DeKalb County, for each unit, you have a performance assessment, and it's an engaging scenario, and you're supposed to do it as the unit goes on, so like each week. So the current situation, parent conference night is scheduled right around the time of the end of this unit of study. Your principal has decided to introduce student portfolios the night of parent conferences. Parents have been told and are very excited about seeing their child's work on display. Okay. So the student challenge, what the students have to do, you must work on several tasks throughout the unit of study to be placed in the student portfolio. The work you create must show your mastery of the standard and understanding of the concept and skills learned in the unit. You feel the pressure of producing quality work, but know it is doable. So they're supposed to complete tasks individually to demonstrate their mastery and understanding of the standards. Sounds fine. We attempted to do these tasks, but they didn't work out for us. Just with timing, that you have in your schedule in schools. The task, in our opinion, didn't really make sense. Like, we had to come up with different activities, which was fine, for the students to do to demonstrate their understanding of the knowledge. But then there was an issue. So, like, you could focus on the task on Fridays, because Friday was technically our testing day. Some of my colleagues were like, well, we don't have time to do that because they need to take a pencil paper test to make sure that they know how to add and subtract with regrouping. So, like, the tasks, just didn't get touched at all. And these are the performance task synopsis. So, solve story problems exhibiting all levels of understanding. Solve story problems, or with manipulatives, and then this one is with pictures and drawings. Create graphs, represent data, putting it all together, the student portfolio. I'm sorry. So, in theory, it sounds okay. However, it was just that push where, no, you need to take a pencil paper test every Friday. You can't be focusing on doing activities in order to demonstrate your mastery of the knowledge. So we didn't really do that. And I feel as though if the district would have given us specific activities that the kids could have done every Friday, it would have made them a lot easier to do. And incorporated what some of those other teachers were saying in about, well, we don't think that this shows mastery. They need to show it by doing 44, like doing the actual operation 44 plus 28. And we need to know that they know how to do that. Okay. And then, so here are the performance tasks directions. So, sorry, they did give us directions. Show what you know, solve each problem. So, like, you have word problems, and you're solving the problems, but it was more like, it wasn't a pencil paper thing. Like, it was a project. Like, this whole problem would have been a project. And you see it takes 45 to 60 minutes, which is kind of a long time for a Friday. And just going back to, people wanted pencil paper. And then, so they had a scoring guide for the unit, or for the task. And then this is performance task 2. So it's, again, using word problems. So, like, you could have easily put this on a quiz. My thing is, I don't understand how it would go into a portfolio. Like, I feel like a portfolio is supposed to be interesting and showing what you know, showing what you learned. And this can easily go into a test, but I don't think it can go into a portfolio, in my opinion. Okay, so these are just more of the task, and this is the last task. So the instructional strategies, yada, yada, yada. Let's see what other question that I might not have asked. I talked about the summative assessment. I talked about the learning outcomes, I believe, that students should be able to regroup when they're adding or subtracting. Okay. Okay, so then they give us suggested resources that we can use. We didn't use any of these. I know we used something that they gave us, but it wasn't any of these. Another big issue was the use of our My Math books. So it's like this workbooks that the kids use, and people in our grade level wanted us to use that a lot because they were saying it's easier than coming up with all these activities and such. So use the My Math, don't use anything else. And so that's another reason why we didn't focus so much on the tasks, because they were very adamant about using the My Math. So this is the weekly planner that we're given. I'm so sorry. I would pause it, but I'm afraid it won't come back up. So this is the weekly planner. And then it has each week the priority standard, which is in bold, and the supporting standard is not in bold. And it just kind of gives you resources to use. You see My Math is over here. Week 2, week 3, week 4, and week 5 and week 6. So overall, I feel as though the standards that guided the unit were fine. I do think I will go back and say that the post and pre-assessments were not age appropriate for our students, and they did not test their ability to complete or their mastery of the content of adding and subtracting within 900, and not at all. A lot of the things that they do want us to do, I know I talked about how we didn't do a lot of stuff, but we did do some stuff, and a lot of the stuff that they wanted us to do just didn't seem to work for the kids at all. Formative assessments, we typically made those ourselves just to make sure that we understood, it was a ticket out the door type of thing, just to make sure that they understood what was going on. So for my formative assessments at my closing every day, I had a PowerPoint up, and it would just be a quick little word problem. And it would have one of the kids' names in it, something that the kids liked, they enjoyed, and they would, figure it out on a whiteboard. So I feel like the formative assessments that we created were okay for the students, and they let us know, that day who gets it, who doesn't, who needs more help, who, has understood it instantly. So I personally feel as though those helped. Any questions am I missing? As I said, I think the learning outcomes were clear. There is no alignment between instructional tasks and the formative assessments, in my opinion. What they created for the tasks, there was no, not the formative assessments, I'm changing that. So there was no alignment between the instructional tasks and the summative assessments at all. The formative assessments that we created, yes, they were the same. And I think that is it. I hope I completed the assignment correctly, and then I can go ahead and I should be able to send a link to this unit. I hope so. Thanks.